Hello there, friends, or anyone still out there listening. This is Avery from 107.3 FM transmitting live from our city's old radio station, the place I once called my professional home. Now, it's turned into my refuge. I never imagined it would come to this. A single microphone, a cracked soundboard, and a room barricaded from the world outside. But here we are. Let's get one thing straight. I'm not certain who can still receive these broadcasts, but if you can, take it as a sign that you're not alone. I'm doing my best to keep the lights on, both literally and metaphorically. If you can hear this, hang on. Let my voice be your companion, at least for a little while. Good evening. Good evening, or whatever time it might be. I don't have a window in this booth, and my phone's clock stopped working last night. The city's power grid is flickering on and off. If you can hear me, I'd like to welcome you to what I'm calling Night Owl Radio. I thought it had a nice ring to it, something that might bring a bit of comfort. Let me paint you a picture. The station is nearly dark. I have a few emergency bulbs and a battery-powered lantern. It smells like cold coffee and stale air. My producer's desk is empty. No calls coming in. No jokes about me always messing up the intro. I do miss those jokes. The only company I have are the echoes of footsteps in the hallway sometimes. Footsteps that don't quite sound right. I've taken care to lock the booth door. I've also blocked it with a shelf and a few chairs. Still, I hear scratching and tapping sometimes, as if someone or something wants to join me on the air. I can't help but wonder if they can hear my voice echoing through the vents. I'd like to pretend everything is normal and spin some tunes, but the old server is lagging. I guess playing music might not help much anymore. Maybe the best thing I can do is talk. So, if you're listening in, consider this a personal broadcast, a way for me to reach through the static and give you a... I want to share how all this began, at least from my perspective. A little over a week ago, we started receiving reports of unusual behavior in various parts of the city. People becoming unusually aggressive and disoriented. Rumors about a spreading condition. At first, it sounded like just another scare the media was blowing out of proportion. We joked about it in the break room, never imagining it might be real. But then, we saw neighbors running down the street, searching for help, pounding on windows and doors. We heard sirens wailing at all hours. My co-host, Regina, tried to get official updates from local authorities, but the lines were jammed. We tried calling each other, but phone signals got spotty. In just a few days, it all went from a bizarre rumor to total chaos. I was on the air when our station manager, Victor, came in, whispering for us to lock the doors, to stay inside until further notice. I remember Regina's eyes going wide with alarm. We barricaded ourselves in the break room, glued to any radio or TV signal we could find. The warnings were frightening. People were advised to stay indoors, to avoid contact with anyone acting strangely. But it didn't take long for that guidance to become difficult to follow, especially when the entire city was swallowed by fear. That's how we ended up alone here in the station. That and, well, I'll share more as the nights go on. For now, if you're out there and you hear my voice, stay calm. There's still reason to believe we can hold on a while longer. Hey, Avery here. I've spent most of the day gathering supplies from the lounge area. I've got a few energy bars, half a case of bottled water, and a little leftover instant coffee. Not exactly a gourmet feast, but it'll do. Let me describe my setup. I've dragged 2 large tables in front of the booth's door. The booth itself is soundproof. Thick glass on one side, no windows, just acoustic foam panels. I can see a sliver of the hallway through the observation window, though. And every so often, I catch a glimpse of a figure passing by. They move slowly, almost drifting as they go. Sometimes they stop and press a hand against the glass. I freeze each time. They can't see in very well unless they press their face right up to it. So far, I haven't seen that happen, but I live in quiet dread that it might. I keep telling myself that as long as I'm quiet, they'll just shuffle by. Truth be told, it's easier to broadcast than to sit in silence, listening to the faint sounds beyond the door. At least the hum of the equipment and the sound of my own voice gives me something to focus on. If you're tuning in, you might be in a similar predicament. Maybe you're holed up in your home or another safe spot. Keep yourself well prepared. If you have anything that can be used as a barrier, use it. Don't let the outside world creep in. And please, if you manage to call in, though I'm not sure the lines work, try and let me know you're safe. It'd be nice to hear another voice. I almost didn't make this broadcast. About an hour ago, I heard something very concerning. Heavy banging on the main door to the station. It sounded like multiple people, or something else. I tried to steady my breath, but my heart felt like it was hammering right out of my chest. Then, just like that, the banging stopped. I was afraid to go check. I stayed put, creeping over to the glass panel in the sound booth door to see if anyone had broken in. I heard shuffling footsteps, and then I saw an arm, someone in what looked like an old station uniform, maybe an intern or staff member from another floor. They were just standing in the corridor, head tilted, as if listening. That alone was unsettling. But then, they turned slowly and walked away, leaving only silence. I realized something then. If we ever had a chance to run, that chance might have come and gone. Now, leaving this station might be more dangerous than staying put. I've sealed myself off from the main lobby, so I'm not entirely sure what condition it's in. I'm hoping to slip out eventually to check if the generator is still working, or if there's a backup somewhere. But not yet. Not until the coast is clear. For tonight, let's focus on what we can control. I can still talk. You can still listen. That's our lifeline. Even if it feels like the world is on pause out there. I found an old photo in the producer's office. It was a group shot of me, Regina, and some of the team smiling in front of the station's big banner. I almost teared up looking at it. We were celebrating a milestone, our highest listener numbers in years. Regina was wearing that bright red sweater she loved. I wonder where she is now. She and I were the last two left after the manager told everyone to lock down. We tried to broadcast official updates, but the station phone lines went dead, and I'm not sure they ever came back. At some point, she said she was going to check on her family. She gave me a hug and promised to return with more supplies. I told her to be safe, as if words could keep her protected. That was the last time I saw her. I have to hold on to a shred of hope that she made it somewhere safe. It's these memories that keep us going, right? Those images of better times. So if you're listening, I encourage you, think about your family, your friends, the people who matter to you. Let that be your warmth in the darkness. Let that keep you pushing forward. I'll try to keep sharing bits of my life and bits of the old station routine. If it helps remind you of normal days, maybe that's a small victory in this uneasy world. I've been fiddling with the station's old shortwave receiver. It's picking up faint transmissions that I can't fully decode. Snippets of chatter, a few voices calling out numbers, then silence. Could it be an official emergency frequency? Could it be other survivors trying to set up a network? I'm not sure. I spent part of the night logging the signals. Sometimes I hear something that sounds like a location being repeated. Other times, just scattered phrases. It's eerie, though. The voices tend to fade just as they start getting clear. The static always seems to swallow them right when I might learn something concrete. If you have a way to scan frequencies, do it. There might be pockets of people out there doing the same thing I'm doing, broadcasting to keep the line of communication open. Even if we can't decode it all right now, there's a chance that somewhere someone else hears us. The station's range isn't huge, but it's something. Stay tuned. I'm not giving up on finding a clearer signal. And if you pick up something, write it down, hold on to it. Maybe we can piece this puzzle together someday. I had a moment earlier. I was so hungry, I went to search for snacks in the hallway outside the booth. I kept the lights off, moved slowly, and listened carefully. The corridor was only lit by exit signs, casting a faint red glow on the walls. Halfway to the vending machine, I heard a noise, a soft, scraping sound. I pressed myself flat against the wall, trying not to breathe too loudly. The sound came closer. Then I saw a silhouette, maybe 20 feet ahead, someone wearing torn clothes, slightly hunched. They turned their head in my direction. For a moment I thought they saw me, but they just kept moving slowly, their feet dragging on the tiled floor. My heart raced. I wanted to dash back into the booth, but I was too afraid any sudden move would attract attention. So I waited, barely daring to inhale. Eventually, the figure disappeared around the corner, and the corridor was silent again. I got my snacks, a couple bags of chips and some gum, and made it back safely. But that tension, that feeling of being on the very brink of disaster, it's burned into my mind now. If you're in a safe place, cherish it. Movement is risky. Only do so if you have to. I was lucky this time, but luck is a fragile thing. I just received a crackling noise that seemed a bit too rhythmic to be random interference. Could be Morse code, or some coded message. I'm no expert in decoding, but I'm going to keep the receiver on in case it repeats. If it is a message from someone else, maybe they're offering guidance or a plan. I know it might be a long shot. Still, any sign that others are out there lifts my spirits. The idea that we're not alone in this vast emptiness is comforting. Sometimes, I let myself imagine a group of determined folks, safely barricaded in a different building, tapping out a message of solidarity. Even if I never pinpoint their location, it's a nice thought. For now, dear listeners, I urge you to remain alert for signals. If you catch a pattern or a repeated sound, try to record it or note the timing. It might mean something. We can't let ourselves lose hope. I've been rummaging through the old mail that was piled up in the station's front office. Most of it is fan mail or business correspondence. Nothing urgent, mostly from before everything happened. Yet going through it felt strange. Like opening a time capsule from a world that was simpler. Letters from listeners raving about a favorite segment. Companies sending promotional items. Postcards from faraway places. One letter caught my eye. It was from a woman who wrote that our morning show helped her cope with stress after she lost her job. She said she'd listen every day at 7 a.m., hearing Regina's laughter and my silly jokes about traffic. It was her way of starting each day with a smile. I wonder if she's out there, if she found somewhere safe to stay. Maybe she still tunes in, hoping to hear that same sense of normalcy. If you're listening, please know that your words meant a lot. Even in these new circumstances, I hold on to the idea that our voices can still bring some kind of comfort. Thank you. It feels like nighttime. My eyes are heavy, and the silence outside suggests fewer visitors in the hall. I'm trying to keep track of days, but with the city's power grid failing in and out, everything blurs together. I'm not alone in this building, though. I hear them sometimes. Footsteps, soft thumps, maybe doors opening and closing. Yet no one has directly tried to break into the booth again since that first attempt. Maybe they don't realize I'm here because this section of the station is fairly isolated. The biggest advantage I have right now is the booth's design. It's meant to be soundproof from the inside out. If I keep my voice at a moderate level and avoid big noises, they might not notice me. It's a fragile sense of security, but it's something. Sometimes, as I drift off, I remember what life was like just a few weeks ago. Coffee runs, live shows, phone call segments, with listeners complaining about traffic or praising a new local band. Simple times. Hold on to those memories if you can. They can remind us of what we're fighting to preserve. I'll sign off for a bit. Need some rest. Keep your radios on if you have power. If you're like me, still managing to keep a battery or generator going, know that I'll be back soon. Good morning. Or so I assume. Avery here, feeling a little rough around the edges. I finally managed some sleep, but my dreams weren't pleasant. I saw the city streets, empty and silent, traffic lights blinking over deserted roads. In my dream, I was outside searching for something, someone, and all I heard were echoes. Then I woke up to the real version of that dream, which isn't so different. I decided to do a quick perimeter check. The station's generator is still operational. Barely. I can hear it sputtering. If it fails, I'll lose a lot of capabilities. But I'll figure something out. Maybe I'll switch to shortwave battery power only. One step at a time, right? If anyone out there has a better handle on how to keep power flowing in these circumstances, share your knowledge through any means you can. Maybe there's a way to maintain communication beyond the short window of a generator's life. On a positive note, I found a dusty can of soup in the station's tiny kitchen. It's not fancy, but it's something. Small comforts matter more. I caught something over the shortwave again, what sounded like a faint voice. I tried adjusting frequencies, but it disappeared almost immediately. It was a single word, I think. Hold. Then static took over. Hold on? Hold where? Could have been anything. It's times like these that I wish I had more training in radio operations. I'm just a host who learned enough about soundboards to keep a show running. Now I need to be a detective, a technician, and a survivalist all at once. If you're hearing me, and if you know something, like how to boost the range or how to pinpoint the source of a signal, feel free to help however you can. I know we might not have a direct line to talk, but maybe you can broadcast a hint on a certain frequency. I'll keep scanning. Let's do our best to connect. Today, I'm reminded of the interns who used to run around here, wide-eyed and eager to impress. We had a few from the local college. It was always so fun watching them learn the ropes. How to cue songs. How to run the mixing board. I remember Emily, who always brought homemade muffins for the morning staff. And Jeremy, who was so quiet you'd forget he was in the room until he made a witty comment that cracked everyone up. I'd like to think they found safety. Maybe they're hiding somewhere, helping each other out. If any of you are listening, I appreciate all the help you gave me. You made the station run smoothly. I hope we meet again someday under better circumstances. These personal stories might seem trivial, but I find them grounding. It's easy to focus on the fear, to let it consume you. Remembering people, their quirks, their kindness, it can keep us human in a world. I tried peeking through a narrow window that overlooks the street from an upstairs office. It's not a big view, just a slice of the road below. I saw forms moving past abandoned cars. They looked slow, somewhat aimless. Occasionally one would pause, as though listening for a sound. Then it would continue on. I don't know what's causing this condition in people. It's not my place to speculate on medical or scientific explanations. All I know is that if you encounter someone who seems disoriented or different, the safest approach is to keep your distance. I know it sounds harsh, but caution is everything right now. It's a heavy thought, living in a time when you can't simply rush to help a stranger. Compassion is important, but we have to be mindful of our limits. Stay aware, stay careful. I never realized just how much of my daily routine involved other people until now. In the past, if I got bored, I'd wander into someone's office and chat, or ask the sound tech about a new piece of equipment. Now my only interaction is with the microphone and the faint static behind it, so I'm finding ways to keep busy. I write short logs of each broadcast, in case I need them later. I organize the booth. I rummage through old station archives, CDs and digital tracks from local artists, interviews, commercials for events that may never happen again. It's all a bit surreal, but it passes the time. If you're in a safe spot, do the same. Find tasks, clean, sort, write. Anything that keeps your mind engaged and away from sinking into despair. Every little activity is a victory in maintaining some semblance of normalcy. I need to share something that happened just moments before I went on air. I heard a faint knock on the door to the broadcast booth. 3 gentle taps. I froze, listening intently. For a split second, I thought it might be someone sane, someone who needed help, or maybe a staff member who escaped the chaos. I whispered, "Who is it?" No response. I repeated myself, but nothing. Then another series of taps, softer this time, as if an echo. Could it have been a trick of the building settling? Possibly. But it felt deliberate. I stayed absolutely still for several minutes. Finally, the tapping stopped. I haven't heard anything since. My imagination is going wild. If someone is out there and they can't speak, how can we communicate? And if it's not a friend, well, maybe silence was the right choice. We all face these moments of uncertainty. The trick is not letting them push us over the edge. Stay alert, but don't forget that some hope might... We rely so much on our senses to navigate this new reality. I find myself listening more carefully than ever. Footsteps, wind patterns, old pipes creaking. Every sound could be a warning. Or it could be nothing at all. Sometimes I start to second-guess everything I hear, questioning whether I'm imagining it. That can be dangerous because it leads to constant paranoia. If you're also feeling that way, know you're not alone. It's part of living with prolonged stress. I remind myself, trust your instincts, but don't let fear take total control. Easier said than done, right? I'm on my last couple of energy bars. Water is holding out, but I've started rationing more carefully. The thirst can creep up on you if you're not paying attention. I'm saving the remaining bottles for emergencies. The vending machines out in the hallway might still have some stuff, but that's a risk. I'll need to time it carefully. If I see or hear anything unusual, I might have to retreat without grabbing what I need. Still, I'll have to try at some point. Survival depends on it. For anyone listening, if you have a stocked pantry, guard it well. If you have a reliable water source, consider yourself fortunate. Don't be wasteful. We don't know how long we need to stretch our supplies. We have to be strategic. I recall a day when the station hosted a community event. We had a little stage in the parking lot, local bands played, families and friends gathered around. We broadcast live, sharing interviews with local talent. The smell of grilled food and the sound of laughter filled the air. That sense of unity, of warmth. It feels like a lifetime ago. But I hold on to it because it's a reminder that people once came together, and maybe we can again. If we keep that vision alive, maybe it'll guide us back to better days. Is that too optimistic? Maybe. But optimism can be a lifeline when... The emergency lights in the hallway flickered just now. The generator must be losing steam. If it goes, I might have only battery power for the radio, and that won't last forever. I have a handheld device that can broadcast on a limited frequency. It's weaker, but it's something. I'll keep the main broadcast going as long as possible. Don't worry, folks. I won't leave you in silence unless absolutely necessary. But if one day you hear nothing but static, it might mean I've had to switch to a smaller transmitter. So keep scanning. I won't vanish without a fight. I think I heard a voice on the emergency frequency responding to me. I caught something like, copy, you, Avery? My heart skipped a beat. I've been saying my name in these broadcasts, so it's plausible that someone recognized it. The signal was too faint to make out more. But it's a sign. Someone might actually be trying to reach me. If you're out there, keep trying. I'll listen carefully at the top of each hour. Maybe we can connect, share safe locations or tips. This station is on the east side of the city, near the old water tower. If you can direct me to a safer place, or if there's a group of survivors, let me know. I'll figure out a way to get there, or we can figure out a way to meet. I found a small notebook in one of the desks. Inside are random scribbles, notes from an employee who used to do overnight shifts. They wrote about funny dreams, favorite songs to play, random thoughts at 3 a.m. Reading it feels like stepping back in time, into someone else's quiet moments. One entry struck me. They wrote, "I can handle the loneliness if I know there's purpose in what I do." That resonates with me now more than ever. Broadcasting into the unknown feels lonely, but there's a purpose. Even if only a handful of people hear me, it's enough to keep me going. We all need a sense of purpose, especially now. It might be protecting your family, finding food for tomorrow, or simply holding on to the idea that kindness still matters. Find that purpose, and let it be. The weather might be changing. I can't see much, but I hear distant rumblings that sound like thunder. Rain could be a blessing if it replenishes water sources, but it might also complicate things if it floods roads or drives more creatures indoors. Sometimes I daydream about stepping outside into a clear, bright day, seeing people walking around calmly. The only reason I'd be at this mic is to share the top hits or read a local news story. That's the world I want back. But I remind myself that reality has shifted, at least for now. Still, daydreams can inspire. Keep imagining a better future, but don't lose sight of the present. We have to balance hope with careful planning. I keep thinking about Regina. She had such a contagious laugh, brightening the studio no matter how dull the topic. She faced tough times, but she always put on a brave smile for our listeners. I hope beyond hope she found her family and they're safe somewhere. If she were here, she'd scold me for worrying so much. Then she'd crack a silly pun to lighten the mood. I miss that. It's in these small recollections that I realize how important companionship is. This quiet booth can become suffocating without laughter, without someone to chat with during commercial breaks. Let's keep that memory alive. If you have someone special in your thoughts, cling to that. Let it remind you to stay strong. I've noticed it's unusually quiet outside. No footsteps, no bumps. Sometimes that's more unnerving than the alternative. It's like the entire building is holding its breath. I keep half expecting a sudden crash or shout to break the tension. It hasn't come yet. In these silent stretches, my mind wanders to worst-case scenarios. I wonder if something new is happening out there, or if maybe the outside has cleared. But that's wishful thinking, right? Still, I can't help but let a tiny spark of hope creep in. Perhaps the tides have shifted. Perhaps people have moved on. I'll check soon, but I'll remain cautious. Curiosity can be a double-edged sword. I've decided to carefully explore another part of the station. There's a storage room on the second floor that might hold a generator manual or some extra batteries. I'll prepare for that journey with a small flashlight and try to be as quiet as possible. I won't risk it without thorough planning. Stealth is essential. I'll update you on how it goes, hopefully soon. If you're in a similar boat, plan your movements meticulously. Scout from a safe vantage point. Listen for sounds. Only move when you're confident. One misstep could change everything. Let's stay safe. I made it to the storage room and back, and I'm still in one piece. The room was dark, but I managed to find a few flashlights, some spare batteries, enough to keep me going a bit longer. Even found an unopened jug of water. That was a nice surprise. I also discovered a set of old station logs, schedules from years past, staff rosters, letters to the station manager. I skimmed them by flashlight. It was like reading a history of all the dedication and hard work people put into making this place a source of information and entertainment. It reminded me that radio has always been about connecting people, through music, news, stories, and companionship. That's what keeps me broadcasting. Even if the world outside is uncertain, the fundamental role of radio remains. I talk, you listen, and in that exchange, we find a bond that transcends physical barriers. I keep hearing that odd static pattern. It rises and falls at regular intervals, almost like it's pulsing. I've started taking notes. Times, frequency ranges, the pitch of the static. Maybe there's a clue in there. Is it a coded message? Or just a quirk of the failing grid? Regardless, the pattern is repeating. If there's anyone out there who's a radio whiz, maybe you can figure out if it's a signal. I'll stay on the lookout for anything more obvious. Each clue might be a stepping stone toward reconnecting with others. I want to address something important, the weight on our minds. We're living in extremely challenging conditions, and it's normal to feel anxious or overwhelmed. I've had my share of moments where I just want to curl up and block out the world. But I push through, because we need to keep ourselves focused. Find small ways to care for yourself. If you have a notebook, write down your thoughts. If you can find a moment to breathe and center yourself, do it. Share a small conversation with anyone else who might be with you. If you're alone, speak out loud to yourself, if that helps. Our mental well-being is as important as finding physical safety. Remember, you matter. Even in this environment, you have worth. Hold on to. I tried playing some old station IDs. You know, those little snippets that say, 107.3 FM, your home for great music. But hearing those cheerful voices echo in this booth felt surreal, like a ghost of the station's past cheering from the rafters. I turned it off. It was too much to handle for me right now. But maybe I'll try again later if the mood strikes. Could be a nice reminder of normalcy. For now, though, it just highlighted how much things have changed. I attempted to open the phone lines again, but they're completely dead. No dial tone. The city's phone network must be in disarray. There's a faint hope that cell signals might come back someday, but right now it's wishful thinking. If you have a functioning phone or radio, you're among the lucky. Keep it charged if you can. Communication is our lifeline. If I can't get calls, I'll rely on scanning frequencies, waiting for a voice to break the silence. I keep thinking about everyone who used to roam these halls, the sales team huddled over spreadsheets, the marketing folks planning on-site promotions, the DJs who hopped from one booth to the next. The station was vibrant, full of energy. Now each empty room reminds me of that lost hustle and bustle. But maybe some of them are listening, from their own makeshift shelters. If you are, I miss you. I truly do. Your presence brought warmth to these corridors. I hold on to the belief that one day we'll laugh about our old inside jokes, and maybe we'll share them on air again. Time is slippery now. I can't tell how long I've been in here without real sunlight or a working clock. Days melt into nights. Nights drag on endlessly. I do my best to mark each broadcast, but it's easy to lose track. I've started labeling everything in my notebook. Segment 1, Segment 2, etc. It's a small way to measure progress, to say, I made it to Segment 33, so I'm still here, still alive, still broadcasting. Every segment is a milestone. If you're doing something similar, counting days, marking tallies on the wall, good for you. It helps remind us that we're moving forward in time, even if it feels like the world is paused. I caught a glimpse of daylight earlier through a crack in the blinds upstairs. It was fleeting, but I saw soft, golden rays illuminating dust motes in the air. It reminded me of how beautiful a sunrise can be. That moment gave me a burst of energy, just enough to power through more hours in this little booth. If you can, look for something beautiful in your environment. A patch of light, a colorful poster, a memory that warms your heart. Let it give you strength. We need these reminders of why life is worth fighting for. Folks, I won't sugarcoat things. Resources are running thin. The station generator is making unsettling noises. My supply of batteries is dwindling. If the generator finally gives out, my broadcasts might become shorter or less frequent. But I'll do what I can to keep this channel alive. If the day comes when you no longer hear my voice, I want you to remember that you are not alone in your experiences. We might be scattered, but we share a common bond of perseverance. Don't lose sight of that. Our collective will to survive is stronger than we realize. Hello again, everyone, or anyone. This is Avery, back on 107.3 FM, continuing from where we left off. If you remember our last segment, I was talking about the uncertain future we face here in the station. The generator keeps making unsettling noises, like a distant rumble of thunder that never quite rolls away. I fear it's near its last breath. Supplies aren't looking good either. My stash of water is dwindling, and the number of snack wrappers I've stacked in the trash is a stark reminder of how quickly time is passing. But it's not just about empty stomachs. It's about survival. Once the generator goes, the transmitter might fail, and I won't be able to keep this broadcast alive. Communication is hope. Losing that is like losing a lifeline. So, I've made a decision. I need to venture out, search the rest of the building, maybe even step onto the street if I must, to find spare parts, a backup generator, or anything that can sustain us a bit longer. I've been dreading this moment because leaving the booth means leaving relative safety. But a choice not to act is a choice to let the station go dark. Right now, I'm finalizing a plan. I'll keep this transmission short, then gather what meager supplies I have, including a flashlight and some tools. If you can hear this, wish me luck. If I'm successful, we'll have a few more days, maybe weeks of power. If I fail, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Stay tuned. I'll do my best to keep you updated on my progress. Until then, keep the hope alive, friends. Avery here, reporting a bit before I head out. I spent the last hour rummaging through the studio to see if there's anything I missed that could be useful. I found an old multi-tool in one of the control room drawers, along with half a roll of duct tape. Not exactly a treasure trove, but it might come in handy. I also discovered an old station jacket with a hood. It's a bit oversized, but it'll help me blend into the dark if I need to. Maybe that's just me grasping at straws for reassurance. Still, every edge counts in these circumstances. The truth? I'm nervous, more than I've ever been. I keep pacing, listening for any noises in the corridor. The station's halls have been oddly quiet lately, only sporadic shuffles or distant thumps. It's the quiet that unravels me. My imagination fills in the blanks. Could it be that everyone or everything has cleared out? Or are they just waiting, listening? I'll find out soon. For now, I'm leaving a note pinned to the booth door with big letters. Avery, gone to find generator parts. If Regina or someone else stumbles in, someone with enough sense to read it. I want them to know I haven't abandoned this place. I'm coming back. I'll try to record snippets on a portable device as I go. Then, if I make it back, I'll patch them into a full broadcast so you'll know exactly what happened. This is Avery, signing off from the booth for a little while. Pray the generator holds out until I return. This is Avery, broadcasting on a portable recorder. I've stepped out of the booth and into the hallway. The emergency lights are still functioning, barely, flickering in and out. I see scattered papers, an overturned trash bin, and a few dried marks on the floor. I can't make out what they are in the dim red glow. I'm trying not to look too closely. I just need to move forward quietly. I hear a faint hum, probably the generator in the basement, straining to keep the station alive. My plan is to make my way downstairs, check on the generator's condition, and see if there's anything I can do to fix or reinforce it. If not, I'll search for a spare or something I can piece together. I'm passing the break room now. The door's ajar, lights off. It smells stale, like coffee that's been left out for too long. In the corner, I see a chair toppled over. No sign of movement, though. That's a relief. I'm still on edge, expecting someone or something to appear, but so far just me and the buzzing lights. I'll keep moving. The staircase to the basement is around the next corner. Let's hope. I've made it down to the basement level. The air feels damp, like there's a slight leak somewhere. It's dark, only the minimal red glow from emergency lights above. I have my flashlight, but I'm trying not to flick it on unless absolutely necessary. My eyes are adjusting to the gloom. I can hear the generator now, louder, shuddering in a little room off to my left. It sounds unwell, like an old car engine on its last fumes. This station generator wasn't meant to run under these conditions for so long without maintenance. Ordinarily, we'd have professional techs come in every few weeks to service it. Now it's just me, a multi-tool, and duct tape. I'm approaching the room. There's a thick metal door, slightly dented. Did something try to get in here? Or maybe it's just old damage. Inside, I can see the generator's blinking control panel. It's caked in dust. A few wires are exposed, which can't be good. A quick check reveals it's running on very low fuel. The station must have had a diesel supply for emergencies, but the small gauge suggests it's nearly depleted. I need to see if there's a stash of fuel or a backup tank somewhere. If not, my best bet is to find a second generator from storage or salvage parts to keep this one going. Let me do a quick scan of the basement rooms. Then I'll let you know if I find anything. Fingers crossed. I found a small maintenance room adjacent to the generator area. Shelves with dusty tools, some cleaning supplies, bleach, mops, and an old radio with a cracked antenna. Nothing that looks like spare generator parts or extra fuel. I even checked behind the shelves in case something was hidden away. No luck. The supply for the generator is definitely low. I'd estimate we have maybe a day or two before it sputters out completely, assuming we don't get any surge or extra strain. That's if we're lucky. This means if I want to keep broadcasting, I need to find another source. Maybe the old emergency generator from the station storage, if it exists at all. I recall hearing about it during orientation, but I've never seen it. Possibly it's in a locked cage or a crate in the shipping area, which is on the opposite side of the building. I'm going to head that way now. It's a real hike, at least 2 floors up, then across a corridor to the freight elevator or the back stairwell. In normal times, no big deal. Now every step feels like a gamble. Let's hope the upper floors aren't crawling with trouble. This is Avery, live from the booth. I managed to return. but not without a scare. While heading to the shipping area, I heard something. Slow, dragging footsteps in the hallway above me. I froze, pressing myself against a wall, hoping I was hidden in the shadows. The footsteps grew louder, and I saw a silhouette under the flickering light. I couldn't make out the face, but I recognized a station uniform, torn, discolored. My heart felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. The figure paused, head tilting, as though listening. I held my breath, focusing on keeping still. After an agonizing moment, it let out a soft, rasping exhale, almost like a sigh. Then it continued on, shuffling into a side office. I waited until I couldn't hear anything before I slipped past. If it had turned the other way, it might have cornered me. I got lucky. I had to retreat, though. My nerves were shot. I decided to come back here to regroup, but I did confirm something. The shipping area is locked behind a heavy metal door. I only got a glimpse from down the corridor, one that's blocked by a toppled cabinet. If the emergency generator or any spare parts are in there, I'll need to force my way in, or find a key. I'm not giving up. We still need a solution, or the main power supply here will die. For now, I'm going to catch my breath, drink some water, and plan my next move. If you're out there listening, stay with me. Back on air again, Avery here. After a short rest, I decided the best course of action was to search the station manager's office for keys. That's logically where a key to the shipping area might be. Our station manager, Victor, was always big on organization. He might have kept an extra set there for emergencies. I crept up to the second floor. The manager's office door was locked, but I managed to pick it with my multi-tool. Inside, the place was surprisingly undisturbed, dust settling on the desk, a few papers scattered. The filing cabinets were locked, but after some fiddling, I pried them open. No luck in the first one. The second held random documents, tax forms, station budgets, sponsor agreements, and then I found a key ring with several labeled tags. One read, Shipping Area 2. That has to be it. It's the closest lead I have. I felt an odd wave of relief, like maybe things were finally falling into place. I brought the key ring back here to the booth, just in case. Now the real challenge, heading back into those corridors, making my way to the shipping area, and seeing what's there. It's risky, but I can't ignore it. If there's a second generator or spare parts locked away, it might be our only shot. I'll keep broadcasting these updates as I go, or at least I'll record them if I'm too far from the booth. We've got to believe the reward is worth the risk. Before I make the trek again, I want to share a thought. Sometimes we get so focused on survival that we forget to pause and feel what's happening. My nerves are fried, and I'm sure many of you out there, if you're in a similar situation, know that constant adrenaline can take a toll. We can't stay in fight or flight mode forever. In moments like these, I remind myself of small comforts. For me, it's the memory of chatting with Regina about our weekend plans, or the smell of fresh coffee from the break room on a normal day. Even though it feels like the world has shifted permanently, those memories anchor me to who I used to be, reminding me I'm still human. So, to whoever is listening, if you can take just a second to center yourself, to remember a better moment, do it. Let it ground you. We have to protect not just our bodies, but our minds as well. All right, enough reflection. I've got to do this. Key ring in hand, I'm heading back out. Wish me luck. I'm outside the shipping area door. The corridor here is a mess. Old promotional cardboard cutouts, a fallen shelving unit, and something that looks like a broken coffee cart. It's all jammed up against the door. I'm going to try moving it quietly, one piece at a time. Okay, got enough space to reach the lock. Let's see if shipping area 2 does the trick. Moment of truth. It opened. The door's heavy, but I managed to wedge it open just wide enough to slip through. The air in here is stale, dust floating in the faint emergency light. I see large crates stacked against the walls, some labeled with station logos, others unmarked. There's a forklift in the corner, obviously not in operation. Let me look around to see if there's a generator stashed here. You won't believe it. I found a large crate marked Backup Gen Model R 3500. This might be exactly what we need. The crate is nailed shut though. I'll need to pry it open, see if the generator inside is intact or if it has a separate fuel supply. The boards are giving way. Yes, got it. Inside is a smaller portable generator. It looks a bit dusty but otherwise new. There's even a small jerry can strapped to the side. Fuel included? That's practically a miracle. I have to check if it's enough to run the station's essential systems, or at least the transmitter for a while. I'm not sure how much fuel is in this jerry can. It might only give us a few hours or days of power, but it's better than nothing. If the main generator in the basement fails, I can try hooking this one up to keep the broadcast alive. I should get this crate open more fully and see if I can lift or roll the generator. It's probably heavy, but maybe it has wheels or handles. Once I figure that out, I'll attempt to bring it closer to the booth or the basement. If I can pull this off, everyone, we might just have bought ourselves a little more time. Folks, I did it. I hauled that backup generator from the shipping area all the way to a secure spot near the main staircase. Let me tell you, it was no small feat. The wheels were stiff, and every bump or squeak echoed through the empty corridors. I kept expecting someone or something to come shambling out. Thankfully, luck was on my side. I didn't bring it down to the basement yet. That corridor is narrower, and I need a plan to move quietly. Plus, I want to test it upstairs first to make sure it works. The jerry can had some fuel, enough to at least attempt a startup. If it's functional, I'll carefully wheel it down to the basement and see if I can hook it up to the main lines or rig something for the transmitter. After a short break, I positioned the backup generator in a small office near the main stairwell. Just enough space to test it without the noise echoing too far. I added some of the remaining fuel from the jerrycan and carefully followed the instructions on the side panel. At first it coughed and sputtered. I panicked, worried it might be defective. But then, slowly, it roared to life. Well, more like a loud hum. The lights in the office flickered, and for a moment I thought I might blow a fuse. But everything held steady. It works. Granted, I haven't tried hooking up the entire station yet, but I did connect a small lamp and a radio for a quick test. Both powered on, stable. It's an incredible relief. If the main generator quits, we'll have this. It may not power the entire building for long, but it should keep our vital systems running. Transmitters, maybe a few emergency lights. Next step is figuring out how to integrate it with the station's system. That'll mean lugging it into the basement, or possibly rerouting some cables so I can power the booth from a closer room. Either way, it's progress. And in these times, progress is gold. Let's take this one step at a time. I'll try to coordinate everything soon. Stay tuned, friends. I have a confession. As I was heading back to the booth to make this broadcast, I caught sight of something in the corner of the hallway, a silhouette again. This time it didn't move. It just stood there, almost as if it was listening for me. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I froze, watching from a distance. The figure, draped in dark clothing, seemed to sway slightly. I couldn't see any clear features. Then, without warning, it stepped backward into the shadows and vanished. No sound, no confrontation. Part of me wants to believe it's another survivor, maybe too scared to speak. But another part of me can't shake the feeling that it wasn't quite normal. I hurried back here, trying not to let panic get the best of me. Why do I share this? Because it's the reality of what we're dealing with. Despite the hope I've gained from finding the backup generator, there's still an undercurrent of dread in this building. I'm not alone, but I'm not sure if the presence out there is friend or foe. For now, This is Avery again, making sure we all stay on the same page. I'm prepping to relocate the backup generator to the basement. In theory, hooking it into the station's existing electrical panel might allow me to power the broadcast booth and a few vital systems. I'm not sure how to do it flawlessly. I'm no electrician, but I figure matching some labeled cables and using the manual is my best bet. I've pulled out the generator's instruction booklet. It's fairly straightforward, if a bit technical. I'm scouring the station's closet for extension cords and any adapters that might help. The main concern is the basement is already housing the failing generator, which is large and integrated. I might have to shut that one down to safely patch in the new one. It's a big risk. If I turn off the old generator and can't get the new one running fast enough, I could lose the station's power entirely. That means no emergency lights, no broadcast capability, nothing. But what choice do I have? If the old generator dies unexpectedly, we lose everything anyway. Let's hope I can pull this off. If you suddenly lose my broadcast, that might be what happened. Keep your fingers crossed that I'll be able to go off air just long enough to make the switch, and then come back on, stronger than before. I've made it to the basement with the backup generator in tow. The old generator is still chugging, but it sounds worse than ever, like it's rattling itself to pieces. I'm about to flip the switch and disconnect it. Once I do, this entire building will go dark. I have a flashlight, and I've set up a few battery lanterns to guide me. Okay, here goes. Everything just went quiet. Even the hum of the lights is gone. It's pitch black except for my lantern. My heart's pounding. I'll try hooking up the new lines right now. The cables are labeled, so I'm matching them to the diagram in the manual. Alright. Connecting the neutral, the ground, carefully. It's okay, just a small arc. Nothing major. Now let me prime this generator's engine. Here goes the start button. I'll need to wait a moment to see if the station lights flicker back on. If all goes well, we should have partial power. We're back on the air, folks. The backup generator is running, and I managed to route just enough power to keep the booth and some emergency circuits alive. The station is far from fully lit. Only a few corridors have lights, but the broadcast signal is stable. I'm as relieved as I am exhausted. I've shut the booth door behind me, but I can't ignore the reality that this might only be a temporary fix. The jerrycan had limited fuel. If I can find more, we could extend our lifeline. If not, we might only have a few days at most. Still, this is a small triumph. We haven't slipped into total darkness yet. The sense of accomplishment is tangible. I hope you can feel it through the static wherever you are. Now, I need to decide my next move. Do I stay here and keep the broadcast going as long as possible? Or should I try to venture out into the city to find more fuel? That's a daunting prospect, but it might be the only way to maintain power beyond a couple of days. For now, let's take a moment to celebrate a minor victory. We have light, we have sound, we have hope. Even with the partial power, most of the station remains cloaked in darkness. The corridor outside the booth flickers with a single overhead bulb, casting shifting shadows on the floor. My footsteps echo unnervingly. I keep thinking about that figure I saw, the one that vanished into the darkness. Could it still be wandering the halls, drawn by the hum of the new generator? Each time I step outside the booth, I feel like I'm stepping into a realm of secrets and unknown watchers, but I can't let fear paralyze me. I'm considering a short excursion onto the street level to see if there's any sign of a nearby source of fuel. The city's roads might be lined with abandoned vehicles. Could I siphon gas? It's risky. Stepping outside the station is a whole other level of exposure. But if I want to keep 107.3 FM alive for you, that might be my next gamble. Nothing. I found an old city map in one of the offices. I'm marking potential places I could search for fuel. A maintenance garage, a couple of gas stations, maybe the city's emergency operations center, if it hasn't been overrun or completely emptied. Part of me wonders if I should leave a note on the front door of the station, like a beacon for other survivors. Something that says, "I'm here, we have partial power." But I'm torn. That could also invite unwanted attention. If the world outside has truly fractured, announcing my location might be dangerous. For now, I'll keep the broadcast as the only sign of life. If someone stumbles upon this frequency and dares to come by, we'll cross that bridge then. In the meantime, I'm focusing on immediate needs, ensuring the generator keeps running, checking for fuel, and staying vigilant. Something unexpected happened a short while ago. I heard a distant siren, faint but unmistakable. It couldn't have lasted more than 10 seconds, then it died out. Could it have been a police car with a dying battery? An automated alarm somewhere? It's the first time in days I've heard anything from outside that wasn't just wind or distant footsteps. It gave me a strange flicker of hope. Maybe someone's out there, trying to restore order or search for survivors. Or maybe it's just a remnant of the city's failing infrastructure. A glitch in the system. Still, it reminded me the outside world hasn't vanished. It's out there, in chaos, sure, but it exists. I'm not sealed in a bubble. The question is whether stepping out there would be salvation or disaster. All right, everyone. Let's talk strategy. The backup generator is my saving grace right now, but that jerry can won't last forever. It's a small tank, enough for maybe a few more hours if I run it continuously. Maybe a couple of days if I turn it off during quiet times. But that's risky, because powering down means losing our connection. I'm weighing my options. Short route. A quick dash outside to see if there's a car nearby I can siphon from. Heading to a nearby gas station or city facility with a fuel supply. Both come with huge risks. I have no idea what I'll encounter out there. Do I have enough courage and enough reason to attempt it? Maybe I do. If this broadcast helps even one person find hope, then yes, I do. Still, I won't rush out blindly. I'll give myself a bit of time to rest and gather what I need. I'll keep broadcasting updates as long as I have power. If I go silent, it means I've either turned the generator off to conserve fuel or something else happened. Let's not dwell on that. For now, let's just keep the lines open and the I'm calling this morning, but who really knows? My body clock is all out of sorts. The corridors still look the same, dim and flickering. But I need to maintain some sense of routine, so let's say it's morning. I ate the last of my energy bars for breakfast. I have a bit of water left, but if I'm going to venture outside, I should conserve as much as possible. The station break room has a sink, but the city water supply is erratic, and I'm not sure if it's safe anymore. I've decided I will attempt a short excursion to the street outside. There might be a car or two I can quickly siphon fuel from without straying too far from the station's entrance. If all goes well, I'll be back within the hour, hopefully with enough gasoline to keep us running another day or two. I'm stashing this broadcast in the main system, so it keeps looping until I return. If you're listening and the broadcast repeats, that's why. Wish me luck. I'll need every ounce of it. I made it to the station's lobby. The front doors are partially barricaded from the inside, our doing, back when everything started falling apart. I managed to slide open a narrow gap. The street is eerily quiet. Cars parked at odd angles, some with doors open, others with shattered windows. I see a few shapes in the distance. Can't tell if they're human survivors or something else. They're too far to make out clearly. I'm crouched behind a desk near the doorway, trying to steady my nerves before stepping out. All right, I'm going for it. I'm standing near a small sedan. Its door is open, keys nowhere to be found. Let me check the tank. Locked from the inside. I have a little siphon kit I found in the maintenance room. If there's anything left in this tank, I might be able to get it out. I just hope it's not bone dry. While I was attempting to siphon fuel from that sedan, I heard scraping footsteps behind me. I turned to see a figure, hard to describe, but definitely not moving with the intention of friendly conversation. I froze, heart hammering in my chest. They stared at me for a solid 3 seconds, then took a step forward. Their clothes were tattered, and their breathing sounded labored. I didn't wait to find out their intentions. I grabbed the siphon and the small canister. I managed to fill it partially, and scrambled back toward the station. I can hear them behind me, but I'm hoping I can slip back through the gap before they catch up. I'm back inside, shoved a desk against the door again. Don't think they followed me inside. Yet. Now I just need to get this small can of fuel down to the generator. My hands are shaking, but we got some gas, not a lot. Maybe enough for another day or two. Let's hope it was worth the risk. I made it back, folks. I'm topping off the backup generator with the gasoline I collected, still panting from the close call outside. The person I saw, if we can call them that, didn't chase me into the station as far as I can tell. I'll be double-checking the main lobby barricade soon. The good news is, we've likely extended our broadcast window. Not by weeks or even many days, but maybe enough for me to figure out a better long-term plan. Or at least for someone else out there to pick up my signal and respond. I'm mentally and physically drained. Despite the fear and adrenaline, I feel an odd sense of accomplishment. Every moment of extra broadcast time could be the difference between reaching someone or being lost in silence forever. I'll keep this station going for as long as I can. If you're still listening, please believe that you're not alone. Even if you never see my face, know that my voice carries concern, empathy, and a spark of hope for all of us. As I wrap up this latest broadcast, I want to reflect on what we've achieved. We found and activated a backup generator. We scavenged just enough fuel to keep going a little while longer. We faced danger head-on and survived to speak of it. Yes, the world outside is shrouded in mystery and fear. Yes, we're running on borrowed time. But for now, the lights are on, the microphone works, and I can still reach you. I'll continue to gather resources, keep watch for any additional threats, and see if there's a safer haven beyond these station walls. But for the moment, we have this space, this broadcast. My voice, your ears, connected in an uncertain night that refuses to give us easy answers. Stay tuned, dear listeners. This is Avery signing off for now, but not forever. With every breath I can spare and every drop of fuel I can find, I'll keep my channel alive. Because in a world that seems forsaken, every shred of hope matters. We're not alone as long as we share this signal.